everybody, welcome back. My name is Deborah Peters, and this is the Deborah Peters Show. I am so thrilled to have you spend some time with me today. Look, I know we're all busy, and you're here, so thank you for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate your attention to my show. It's a way to get the show out to more people globally. We're going through a lot, still as a humanity. It's like for a lot of people, it's hard to wake up and to realize how much we actually command our life experiences through our thoughts and our programming, our patterning, our emotions, generational, familial paradigms. I mean, just like the list goes on. So my goal with this show is to give you the tools to get beyond those energies and to actually step into your own authentic self and to build a life from that foundation of consciousness. And so we cover 5 main pillars on this show: health, wealth, relationships, self-expression, and of course, business. And so my favorite topic is usually about money, because most people have these, I don't know what to call it, I guess, distorted ideals about money. And all you have to do is turn on the news and you can hear all sorts of stories about inflation and cost of living and dollar devaluing. It's in our faces pretty much 24/7, especially when you're at the grocery store and one bag now is the same cost as what 3 used to be. So what can we do energetically to understand how we work with money as an individual or even as a family or as a business? So my guest today is all about teaching you how to master your relationship with money. And her name is Christine Clifton. I've had a chance before we got rolling today just to chat with Christine a little bit. And I think she's going to blow your socks off. So welcome, Christine.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Oh my gosh. I don't think we can ever have too many conversations about how to, I have this course that I teach, and we're about to roll it out as a recorded course called How to Heal Your Money Story. So don't we just all have a story about money? And maybe that's a good place to start with.
Yeah, multiple stories.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, of course, many practical or maybe mainstream money courses will take you through, what's your money avatar, looking at your family of origin, what did you learn in your family? And I'm not discounting those big impact, right? But
Sure.
something else happens in other ways. So when we have traumas in our life as well, whether it has to do with money or not, those traumas can imprint, uh, fear, fight, flight in our operating system and can come out through our self-value or our self-worth or our self-esteem. So traumas are another thing we have to honor. And, in the Native American spirituality, they have something called a soul retrieval. And they talk about that because when traumas happen, their belief is that, we compartmentalize as humans to survive. And so kind of part of our soul gets left behind. So soul retrieval is about reintegrating that piece when you're now safe and can bring that back into your being. So that happens to us as well. We've got generational money story.
Yeah.
We've got, depending on your belief system, past lives, that you might bring in terms of money story. And
Religious money stories.
Oh yeah, for sure. For
Right.
sure. And I also believe that I call it my soul's calling, as opposed to purpose or why. I believe that some of us in our soul's calling also have chosen to address money in this lifetime
Sure.
This is my belief system. So, listeners, watchers, fill in the word that works for you, and you may not even believe that, and that's okay too. But so all these things are at play, and it can make a real mess of things sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, it can throw your whole life sideways. We have to have money as a means of exchange to live. And there's pretty much no way of getting around that. So if you have a money story or belief system or whatever you want to call it going on, then that is contrary to your uh, willingness to receive and allow the flow of it into your life with ease, then you struggle and you develop. I think when people struggle, they develop this belief that there's something wrong with them and there's something wrong with money. Then it's like money becomes this evil thing
Yeah,
because
for
they
sure.
can't get their hands on enough of it to feel safe, to feel comfortable. And wouldn't that just trigger all the trauma that's stored in the cells?
Sure, for sure. And I'm a both and kind of gal. So, some of us need money to survive. If you were to go visit a tribe in Africa, right? They don't need money to survive. So I'm a bit of a contrarian. So
No, that's
I always
good.
like to question what comes out of our mouths, because I believe words are thoughts manifest, and it gets energy in motion. So it's a beautiful, loving thing to kind of say, I just said that. Do I really believe it? Um, so yeah, it's all about how we, move through life and perspective. Back in the old days, they used to trade. There was no money.
Yeah,
And the value of an animal pelt was different to different people. And so they would trade different things for it. So there wasn't even an assignment of a value. It was,
of course.
more of a feeling or a need or something like that. So, so
Well,
yeah,
in my
and
mind, when I'm thinking about the necessity of money, this is a Western culture kind of
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
And
definitely would not want to live like an African tribe. I can promise you.
exactly.
I like to blow my hair out and
Yes, I like to wear lipstick.
yes,
And again, these are all choices, and we can
sure.
make choices and change choices at any, given point in time. And that's the empowerment part. The self-empowerment part is
Yeah,
recognizing that we have, these choices to make. And so when we look at the Western need to, we need a dollar, we need money, we need tangible, well, sometimes it's electronic, right?
yeah,
And so it's important to understand with that the the belief system around, the cultured norm that comes with that, and the sensationalism that comes in the media, or whatever your community might be. Some religious communities are, with their money beliefs as well. So it's this opportunity to really unpack what I call it BS for belief systems, what my money BS is, what my money BS systems are. Look at them and choose. Is it serving me? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to shift it? And then, move on. And I even believe the personal and spiritual growth industries are distorting
yeah.
manifestation and money, because they tend to not always they use abundance or prosperity. And to me, that it softens a topic that needs to be a harder, tangible topic. We
Just
need to be
ask for
talking
money.
about money, right?
Ask for money.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
when
so
when I do a values elicitation process with clients to see what their drivers are, I'm always curious if they say anything about money. And I remember I had this one client. He was retired from a corporation and he was launching his consulting gig. And so we did this process as part of his business model setup. And he had, out of all of his values about his business, he had nothing, he didn't have money on there anywhere. And his biggest complaint was people didn't want to pay him. And I pointed this out to him. I said, you don't even have money on here. Like, why you're doing it? You're doing all of this for feel good. You don't have money on here. So why would people be attracted to paying you?
Exactly. And my specialty is working with what I call soul powered people of service. And those of us who are wired to serve, that we've taken that on as our mission. And so, as people of service, we give and give and give. And sometimes we get caught up unknowingly in thinking that if we give more, we'll be valued more, right? And what happens is that if I start my business or practice because I want someone to avoid going through what I went through, or to learn something that I experienced, then and I'm not yet giving that same thing to myself, then I'm unconsciously vibrating at a lack frequency.
Yeah.
So these opportunities to say, it could there be any truth to the fact that the more I'm giving, I'm kind of unconsciously thinking that that person or that group will value me more. And then the question it becomes, looking within, have I given myself this thing that I'm so, focused on giving to other people? And nine
That's
times
a
out of
good
10,
one. Hold on a
right?
second. I
Yeah,
want, I want,
go
I want,
ahead.
to, I want to plug this in because there's a train going by,
Oh, okay.
and I don't want people to have to listen to it. Now, before you go any further, you said something really, really powerful. Have I given this to myself?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because if you haven't or don't do that, that doesn't even occur to you perhaps, then how could you possibly have it in you to give to others?
Exactly. And it's why a lot of people of service are burnt out. It's why a lot of holistic practitioners end up I might say leaving their practice or unable to sustain a practice because of that overt, giving. We're the equation. We are the bridge between those people who need served and what needs to be served. And why would I give from a depleting cup when I can self-serve to fill my cup? Now I'm giving from the overflow. And
Yeah.
so, that is a more sustainable way to give. So it's not, again, people of service, I also call us highly relational folks, but we tend to think that's selfish, right?
Right.
And it's in a way it's a type of self-care, but it is more about, it's not like a massage self-care. It's a, can I bring the completeness back to my being that I know that I am as a part of the universe. I mean, the universe is whole and complete already, right? And
Exactly.
it's our journey through this lifetime. And again, whatever belief systems your listeners have,
Um,
um, with the experiences that we're given, but it's whole and complete. We don't live in a vacuum. So we have this opportunity to ask ourselves, am I whole and complete? Am I looking outside of myself to complete myself? And if you are, you will always be looking, because you will never complete yourself outside of yourself. You will only complete yourself inside of yourself by
and then you
addressing.
end up depleted.
Exactly. Exactly.
You end up
So,
depleted, and when you talk about burnout, uh, burnout is a symptom of early early years trauma. That's unresolved, that's still sitting in the cells of the body. So I think that this is something I looked at, pretty early on in my business, and quickly made pivots from doing one-on-ones with clients. As much as I loved helping them, it just just at the end of the day, like, you have only so much time in your life, so why not work with groups of people and make a bigger impact? You're expending less energy, and you're broadening your reach.
and I call that alignment,
Hmm.
right? So there are people like me who I tried to do group programs left and right and sideways in my practice over the past 15 years. Nothing ever took. And I
Mhm.
really realized over time that, you know what, I am a small group gal. If I do a class, I'll attract 6 or 8 people, but the one
Mhm.
on one is my jam. So again,
You
you're
like
aligned
that.
to what you've chosen. And I'm aligned. Again, I'm a both and kind of gal. So that's the honoring of my uniqueness is and back to money and cultured norm, when we're taught that we have to look around us and compare ourselves to the Joneses and kids beating each other up for a pair of tennis shoes, I mean, what kind of craziness is that? So it really comes back to, how can I strongly and intentionally be in my beingness to know that the only source, and this is my belief system, the only source of my supply, in my case, I call it spirit or source,
Sure.
and money doesn't create money. I mean, sorry, work doesn't create money,
No.
right? People will attach themselves to their job or their business and put an undue burden on that entity
Yeah.
to sustain them. So again, it and yeah, people might be listening to this and say, "Well, of course,
What is she talking
Christine,
about? Yeah.
exactly, like I need a job or I need my business." But it isn't about that. It's about your perspective on how you're using your business or relating with your business or your job. If you believe that they're the source of your supply and they go
Yeah.
away,
You're in trouble.
your rugs got pulled out from under you. What are you going to do? So people who have a spiritual belief system about the fact that we're all one, that we're all connected, that we're all whole and complete. That's the spiritual part of the money component that I want people to really own, is that I can only get that myself. And there's texts that I want to share, some books with people too, if they want to read some of these concepts that we talk about today, because I believe in giving resources. So these are other authors,
Good.
that I've learned from, but they should ask themselves, like, well, what am I feeling led to learn? Where is the biggest stress point perhaps in my life around money? And maybe I focus on that one piece as I begin to listen to what Christine's invited me to do, which is, how can I bring completeness, to myself first?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. One of the things I had to teach this to myself first, but now I guide my clients in this direction, is that you don't have to be tasking to generate revenue in your
Exactly.
business. And, because I always used to get these excuses like, I don't have time to eat healthy. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to meditate because I have to work. So right away, there's the red flag. It's like, okay, now I know what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
You're in that old paradigm of the only way to get money is to effort and basically trade time for money, even if you're the company owner.
Yes.
So getting them to realize that as part of their business model, meditation is a part of their business model.
Love it.
Exercise is a part of your business model, and you can be doing that, and because of how you're dialed in energetically, revenue's coming. Revenue's still
And that
showing up.
paradigm shift is that instead of making work the center of our lives,
Yeah.
we're making our being the center of our lives. So I tell people I work 24/7. And I
Sure.
don't mean I work 24/7. I mean that I'm connected to my higher calling, my soul's calling, and everything I do with intention and purpose is an extension of my calling and what this being is here to do. And that shows up in my work, and it shows up in my volunteerism, and it shows up in how I treat the barista at the Starbucks. You
Always.
know,
Yeah.
so when you consider that the higher power, God, spirit, whatever you call it, chose to place you in this holistic universe, and that it needed one of you here, then really your existence is your work.
And it
You're,
matters.
and it matters, right?
Yeah. It matters a
So
lot.
I'm with you. We glorify busyness
Yes.
and scarcity and fight flight that kicks in. That's it's easier to do for most people than to be when that type of, fear comes in. And listen, I'm human. I teach this stuff, but I am still a human being. I tell my clients I'm like one big toe ahead of you. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
sitting at the top of the mountain, oming. And I'm in a
But
really
you've gone
quiet.
through it, right? You've gone through
Yeah,
it, and you're going through more of higher levels of it. And so you reach back and you bring them along. And
exactly.
what's fascinating about that is the other thing that I think we're addicted to as a society, and it's not just in America, it's the rags to riches stories, the destruction to overcoming stories, and I just, you know, I think about some of these people that are being applauded for having gone through these massive hardships to become what we call great, and then to lose it all and then have to do it again. And to me that just shrieks of a pattern, a cycle that's controlling your existence, that you can let go of if you let go of the paradigm that in order for me to be worthy, I need to suffer and struggle. And then as I dig my way out of the hole and acquire things, stuff, a different life, then I'm worthy of it. And, it's this belief system that there's something outside of us that is pulling the strings.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
it's the worst. It's the
Yeah, and
worst.
it's it, and the big understanding is to really honor your true nature. Everyone gets to
Yeah.
honor their true nature with how they choose to step forth in the world in this way. The first step is question everything.
Yeah.
Because I was raised in a family, Catholic, military. Both my parents were in the army, and I lived a life full of duty, obligation, responsibility. And we earned money if we did our chores, and we got our money, but we had to tithe 10% to the church, and the rest of it went into our savings account. We weren't allowed to use our money. So unknowingly, as a girl, I learned that money isn't mine and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
money
yeah.
isn't for fun. I to this day I sometimes feel guilty if I spend something on just fun because of that old BS or old belief system. So, so each of us have those stories. Each of us has some of the traumas we mentioned earlier, and that's going to form what is our work in this arena to fill that completeness for ourselves. So
Yeah.
to really question, what there's one thing when I teach my money classes, I ask people, do you have one bank account that you have money in and you don't touch? And it was like, oh, yes, I have that account. I have that account. I said, well, you know what? What is money? Oh, well, money is energy. Okay, money's energy. Does energy stop and never move? No, energy's always moving. So, you know what? Get some motion going in that account. I don't care whether you pull $5 out and put it in a different account or add $5 in, every week. But, we pride ourselves on, like, that's my whatever contingency fund. But are you really aligned with the law,
Mhm.
the metaphysical laws of movement of energy? So if you're not doing that, get your money moving. Some people are like, I want to do this thing, but I don't have the money. And I'm like, but what if it's the action of stepping in alignment with your soul's calling to decide to do the thing that ignites the universe's creation of the resources to do the thing?
Yeah.
I can't
That's a
tell
whole
you
other
how many
reality.
times, right, that has happened in my life. So again, people might say, "Well, of course, Christine, if I don't have the money, I'm not going to do the thing." Of course, that's cultured norm. But in my world, it's if I know that is, I'm not talking, vacation to Paris for a month just for
Right.
fun necessarily. But if you're really feeling the draw or the alignment of that thing with your calling, with who you are and what you're here to do on the planet, like, you know, in my world, I'm gonna make that happen. And it's not, again, like you
And the
said
money
before,
will be there.
the money will come. The money will
Yeah.
come. There's an acquaintance of mine who wanted to go to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and become a health coach. And she was jonesing because of the money. She just didn't have the money, didn't have the money. And there was like the next day was like the deadline to sign up for the cohort that she wanted. And that day she came home from her other job, opened her mailbox, and she got some crazy refund from the IRS that she
Yeah.
had no idea was due her, and it was almost to the penny of the cost
Always.
of that course. So, and I have, there's so many stories like that. So it really is about stepping forward in faith. The faith of, I know what I'm here for. That, it isn't about trusting the universe. It's about trusting yourself.
Oh, yeah, we have to change that language. Thank you for saying that,
Yeah,
because I've
I
been
think that's so
correcting people on
important.
that. It's
Hmm.
I call it, and no disrespect intended. I'm kind of making a joke, but I call it like new age psychobabble, trusting the universe. It's like, no, honey, trust yourself.
Trust yourself, because I am
Use
the
different
universe,
words. I am the
right?
universe,
I
therefore I
am.
trust myself. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's foreign for most
It
people.
is. It is. And that, to me, that is tied to whether you look at it as a spiritual
Hmm.
principle, which I do, or a metaphysical one, which I do. There's some crossover in my belief system. So if we're all one, right? If we're all one, then all of it is there all of the time.
Yep.
So manifestation isn't about creating something from nothing. It's about calling in what's already there.
Well,
So
actually, the way I look at manifestation, the way I look at it is when you think the thought, well, like when you have the, let's say the impetus, when you have the insight or the inspiration, and it comes through and it's not manufactured, like you're not forcing it. It's just it hits you. To me, that's a manifestation. And it exists then energetically. When it shows up in physical form, that's the realization of the energy where you just received. And
cool. I like that
it's
perspective.
kind of how I break it down, because people talk about manifesting all the time, and what they're really saying is that they're working double time to get ahead. And it's like, then you're not manifesting, you're
Right.
still
You're
creating time
working.
for
Yeah.
money.
You're
Yeah.
looking outside. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, you know, with money as the topic, if we see ourselves as separate from money, or if we treat money
Yeah.
differently than we treat playing with a hula hoop or petting our cat or going on vacation, then we're the ones who are causing the money to be different
Yes.
with us. So to me, it's all about levity. I believe manifestation has to have levity in it. There has to be
Right.
humor, levity, energetic lightness for it to happen. And so if we're holding on to money, or if we're stressing about money, and it's really full of heavy energy, um, you know, we're not treating it the same as everything else. The money isn't any different than how you treat your neighbor or how you speak to your child. It's just
Right.
part of all of us. But again, we're cultured in a different way. And so now we have a chance to say, which of these things do I want to shift? What
Right.
belief system, what BS is no longer serving me, and what do I want to change up?
So when you're working with a client on shifting their belief systems around money, um, what are some of the things that you have them do in addition to, whatever work you're doing together?
Sure. These principles are key to, like, just like we learned to ride a bike. We didn't get on it and it was free sailing, most of us, right away. We had to learn, the concepts and the principles. And the same is true with this. And a lot of it is about catching themselves when they're saying things, like I said before, like, I can't do this because I don't have the money,
Sure.
or, I'm not going to touch that. I developed what I call the magical money manifestation spreadsheet. I love alliteration. I'm just goofy that way in my marketing approach. So I had to call it that. And it's really a dashboard of a lot of these spiritual metaphysical principles that you go into. And I recommend once a week minimum when you get started for the first 3 months. And the dashboard is um, assigning values to not only what you have, but also what you want. So let's talk about uh, gratitude practices, for example. So, in my world, I don't resonate as much with a gratitude practice
Right.
because the word appreciation to me
Yes.
is
Higher.
much stronger, and satisfaction, because I've asked a client, what are you grateful for? And they'll list 10 things. And I say, where in your life and work are you satisfied? Crickets chirping. Right? Because it always could be better, or needs to be better, or has
Yeah.
to be a little different. So it brings that awareness to the fact that, how can I create an appreciation practice? So appreciation, I'm a word nerd as well, has two definitions. It's to increase in value, and the other definition is to give high regard to, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate. So let's take time to just appreciate what the having, because if we're always in our mind of the getting and not in the having, then that's also an energy of lack. Because I
Well, and
don't
you're
have that
chasing
yet.
if you're
You're
focused on not
exactly,
having.
you're
You
chasing
know,
it.
the way I look at gratitude and appreciation is like this. It's like, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being grateful, but you have to understand that when you're in gratitude, when it's like, I'm grateful for this, typically the backstory to that is, I'm grateful for it because once upon a time I didn't have it. Like I'm grateful for being healthy because once upon a time I wasn't. I'm grateful for this home I'm in because once upon a time I didn't have it. There's still this element of lack energy to it, whereas appreciation is right up there. It's the top of the scale with love. It's just another word for love, and so when you're appreciating something, you're loving that thing, and when you're appreciating your relationship with that thing, you're loving you. So it's so pure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's honoring the value of, and
Mhm.
it's giving you a vibration of already having. And if we believe in like attracts like, then if you're already having, you're going to keep having, right?
Yeah,
So it's just another practice to look at. So the spreadsheet invites them to do that. Now, the other thing is the universe can't count. The universe can't count,
right,
right? So if I want the Ferrari and it's $100,000 for a Ferrari, sometimes I do believe vision boards work, just as a side note. So when we put a picture of a
sure,
Ferrari on a vision, why does it work? It works because there's a feeling behind
yeah,
it, not just that there's a picture of a Ferrari. So it's the feeling that is the energetic vibration, the frequency, right, that goes out. But when we have a money story, we need to communicate to the universe a we need to translate it into the money number so it understands the magnitude, because the universe doesn't understand magnitude either. It's just an
right,
energetic, call and response system.
yeah.
So we have that opportunity to look at everything that we have, and to recognize that we have to communicate that. And more importantly, if we have a delta difference between where we are now and where we'd prefer to be, the universe looks at the delta
I think we need to
as,
break delta down for the
so
viewers.
it's just the difference. So if I have, 2 grand in the bank right now and I want
Yeah,
10 grand in the bank, delta is 8 grand, eight
it's
grand.
the 8 grand is the delta.
Right. So in
Okay,
my spreadsheet, the delta, the difference in the cell is highlighted, because that's the one that I want to energetically form a relationship with, because that's the differential between where I am now and where I choose to be. So it brings a different frequency to it because I'm acknowledging that number and I'm translating it to the feeling. And the feeling comes because my spreadsheet has things like my vacation home, my sanctuary, my car. Like you're actually listing
Yeah,
out all of the things. So we know where the feelings are going towards or those things that we were choosing. But when it comes to the money piece, that's where we have the opportunity to translate it to the universe. And quite honestly, as humans, we usually don't break those numbers down for ourselves anyway. Some
sure.
people say, well, I keep a spreadsheet. One of my clients was like, oh, I do a spreadsheet already. But she didn't have one that was the differential
Yeah,
between where she is now and where she's going. And so it gives us that practice of always checking in and saying, hey, universe, thank you. See that, here's that number. Thank you more, please. Here's where it's going to go to contribute to my life. I like the word contribution.
yeah, directs your
So
focus.
yeah, so that's part of the practice as well is to understand that, and it becomes fun. And I discovered it mistakenly, believe it or not. I was doing something for myself money-wise, and I decided and I don't do spreadsheets. That's how I know spirit speaks to me because I
Mhm.
hate Excel spreadsheets. So for me to have created this, I knew. And so I had created this. Okay, here's where I am. I think it was just like how much I need to pay my bills this month. I think that was probably the stage of money story I was in. And there was this difference. And in the next week, I exactly made that amount of money.
Sure.
And that's when it hit me that that's what was the universe was communicating to me,
Yeah,
with. So
100%.
that, and my saying is, if you're unconscious about it, you can be mildly successful. But if you're consciously working it, you can
Ooh,
be wildly successful.
yes, you can.
So
And
there's a
it's
lot.
not to say that people that are unconscious about it aren't wildly successful. I mean, I know some multimillionaires that are very unconscious about this, but it's percolating within, and it's just their norm, and so they're wildly successful. And then I know some multimillionaires and billionaires that literally live this stuff. It's how they design their life. And it's really funny. One time I was having a conversation with a guy. I was inviting him to one of my seminars, and I made that comment, and I said, these are the tools that my high net worth and ultra high net worth clients use. And he just laughed at me like I was making it up. And he goes, I doubt they take all this time to do this in a day. I'm like, wow, you are just like so out of touch. you know,
Yeah.
no idea. Of course they
How's that for a
do.
belief system, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's again in Levity. I first became aware of some of these principles with a course I took from Access Consciousness called Becoming Money. So
Yes, I'm
and
familiar.
that was my first exposure to Access Consciousness and the practices. I didn't even know what I was getting into, quite honestly. I just saw the course name and I thought I need that. And
I lost you. Where'd you go? Must have had a Wi-Fi glitch.
yeah, we have a storm rolling through, so my power went out for just a minute, and it just glitched with the
It
internet
did.
connection. So um,
That's all right. So you made a shift in your relationship with money then.
and it was just joyful. We were making it in a loving way, making fun of these belief systems that we brought through with us, to where we are in our life now. And, we were using some clearing statements and things like that. That was part of the practice of access to begin to
That's
shift those.
useful. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like those clearing statements.
I do too. They're powerful. I use them a
Hmm.
lot. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure.
Really good. So this has been phenomenal. I mean, it really starts to take the lid off of these ideas we have about money, and just I think for people to be able to relax and to trust and to know that it's not going to be because you stood on your head all day and made your boss happy that's going to get you the raise or the money. It's who you're being with yourself. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. That is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
base of it all, right?
And to bridge on that, it's the messaging that we've done something wrong or that it's our fault
Yeah,
as well. And you know what? We are too hard on ourselves, anyway. So let's not add this to it.
I know.
How can you shift that perspective of yourself to know, just like riding a bike, I didn't know how it worked until I learned it and practiced it. Same thing here. If these concepts are blowing your socks off, like you said at the top of the call, then, honor the fact that, you know what, I'm learning now. I didn't know this before, so I didn't do
Yeah.
anything. So,
You
yeah,
had to go through all that to get here. And, I
exactly.
remember learning to ride a bike because my bike was gigantic. So, I came from a family that would buy you the future thing now. So when you grew into it, they didn't have to buy you another one.
Right.
And so training wheels. And,
Exactly.
it didn't matter if when I sat on the seat, I couldn't reach the pedals. I had training wheels, so I could just stand up and pedal. And I got a lot of miles out of that bike. But, that's the point here, is that regardless where you're at in life, you have to start with where you're at. And then you have to move forward based on that awareness. And you have to accept that, it's, man, it's probably one of the hardest things, is that we have to learn to accept that we are where we are. There's nothing wrong with where we are. We may not like it, but it doesn't make us wrong. It just means that there's things we don't know yet. You don't know what you
Exactly.
don't know, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
talk
today I
about
wanted to just,
self-love. That's a
yeah,
that's a beautiful act of self-love, is to honor where you are now and know you're going to be growing. You can't help it. You're evolving. You can't stop it. It's going to
can't
happen
stop
anyway.
it.
So just let it go. Let it happen and welcome this in.
Yeah, and be with
Just
it.
be.
And
Being
trust
is
the
doing.
process. Yeah, it totally is. Okay. So this has been gigantic. Give everybody a takeaway. Like, what's the one thing they can do right now that is going to aid them in shifting their consciousness around money?
Well, I would say go out and read something. I would like to give a couple of quick texts. I think that's the most accessible thing. So find Marianne Williamson's Law of Divine Compensation and read that. Look for John Randolph Price and his abundance book and the 40-day prosperity plan. It is an exercise you do with a buddy, and it's very powerful.
Okay.
Um, Read Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. He talks about the upper limit problem around money and
Yes,
success, which is a little nuance that I only learned about 3 years ago. So there's a lot of stuff out there. You know, be curious about what you're drawn to, and then see what things you want to address, and then address them, whether it's with yourself or find a class like I did. There's many things out there that can help you begin to shift these things. So that would
absolutely.
be the first step for sure.
That's awesome. I think, that's a lot right there. Just taking a step toward that. And, I want to encourage everybody watching. It just walk toward it. Just take a step toward it. Like when you order the book, or if you have to, if you maybe can't afford the book, go to a library. Just
Yes,
but
very good point. It's the
yeah.
decision that ignites
Mhm.
the movement,
So I'm doing
that's
it.
going to support you. So make the decision. Yeah,
Yeah. And
I'm with
do it.
you.
Take a step. Take a
Yep.
step. And then let the next step show up,
Yes.
and trust that. Trust that process. So you're not gonna, you don't know maybe necessarily the whole picture before you start, but as long as you've got an end point, like, this is, pick an X is X number of dollars, and then just start where you are, and don't
Yep.
judge it. Do not judge it. Oh
Yep,
gosh.
exactly. Play with it. See if you can bring some childlike curiosity and joy to kind of see, like, I wonder how this is going to work for me,
It's an experiment.
It's an experiment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do that all the time. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, so I'm going to use my mind in this way, directed at this particular outcome that I would love to have an experience with. And then I'm just going to do it as an experiment.
Yep.
So that way it's like the heat's off, you know, the pressure's off. And by the way, the last thing I want to just add to this is I don't talk about it to people, you know, because man, you know, the people that are just watchers and not actually designing their own lives will sit back and wait for you to not get traction or wait for you to not get momentum and then question you. So how's that thing going? You know, did it work? And they want to hear you say, no, it's going terrible. So I just don't talk about my journeys like that. But that's me. It's up
Yeah.
to you.
Again, choice, and I'm very particular about, you know, who I choose to share
Yeah.
share it with. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, cool. So how do people find you? And do you have a freebie for them? How do they find
Oh,
that?
sure. Yes, yes. So go to my website, which is my name, ChristineClifton.com. And there's a tab that says free. So you can get a lot of free things there. But I want to invite people to take my Money BS Meter quiz. And they can find that either on the website, or you can just type in the URL moneybsmeter.com and take the quiz. It's going to ask you a lot of things and give you a score at the end about where you are with your money. And at the end, you'll be taken to my free class, which is called Spirit of Money. So that's what you'll get. Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Yeah, you can never stop up leveling. Like I'm sure I can learn something. Absolutely. Why not?
I'd love to hear it. Yeah. Tell
Yeah,
me what you learned for
for
sure.
sure. 100%. Okay, what's your URL?
My URL for my website is ChristineClifton.com.
Brilliant. All right, guys. Now you know how to find ChristineClifton.com in order to learn how to master your money. And then you're never going to feel like a victim again. And you're not going to feel like your life is out of control. I mean, I think money is probably the number one stressor for most
Oh,
people
sure.
on this planet.
Absolutely. Yep.
So this is a great place for you to start. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Gosh, yeah, this has been like uplifting. And thanks to all the viewers for tuning in. I appreciate you. Remember, this show runs as live on Tuesdays at 12 Pacific and 3 Eastern. And it runs live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And then my podcast producer makes sure that it gets uploaded on every major podcast platform, from iTunes to Amazon Music, Spotify, Rumble. It's everywhere. So subscribe, listen, comment. Yeah, definitely drop a comment. That for sure will help the channel grow and expand so more people can get this information.
Yes.
Yes. All right, everybody. Remember, I love you. Stay aligned, stay alert, and stay awake.